Hello, everyone. We have an amazing guest today, Mark Goloboy. Thank you so much for being here. You have done so many things in your life, but most recently, you are all about enabling marketing teams, fractional CMOs, and in terms of how to use AI. So
Yeah.
share a little more there. Like, what are you seeing in terms of the approach?
So we do marketing consulting where we're doing strategy and technology and AI development for companies. We do fractional staffing, and clients are more and more asking us for AI enabled people. And we're starting to think about how do we, within our clients, think about it from a change management perspective of how do we identify the people with the highest potential for AI. So that's been new work that we've been working on in just the last few weeks and outsized value for their level. Yeah.
That's always been a hard problem to solve, I think, in recruiting in general, because there's only so much time you have to vet people. So to find out if they're curious, I feel like it's takes a little bit of time. How do you measure that?
Well, the way that we're thinking of doing it is we're going to offer a training class to marketing departments where they get to do something like cloud code. So we'll have a use case that's company specific. We'll design a project around the company's, way that they would want to go to market with their teams. And then we'll see who does the best. And we'll both train the team along the way. That is the primary goal. The secondary goal is to identify for the leadership who in that team went above and beyond, who got really into it, and start to identify that as performance characteristics, not just training. I don't care what level they are, individual contributor, manager, director, that doesn't matter. What matters is that they are interested in going and building something beyond their level and providing outsized value to their organizations.
I love that, but that almost makes me nervous. I can just imagine being a marketing employee in that department, and it puts a lot of pressure to
Well, we're
perform.
not gonna
Quality.
we're gonna just do the class. We're just gonna train the people in some new interesting thing, and we're gonna see and present back performance in the class as a characteristic of the class. And some people in there will shine. We've known for a long time that marketing teams are split between people who are cautious about AI and not really using it, and people who are curious and innovating with AI and doing their jobs better. And leadership wants to understand the differences when they look down at their teams.
And one of the things you're also working a lot on is actual tooling for marketing teams. Can you talk a little more about that and what you've built there?
Sure. So we're right now for two multi-billion-dollar software clients. We are responsible for the technology team for their AI center of excellence. So within marketing, they want to build orchestration across many agentic things. They want to build a user interface that marketers will access all of those agents through. They want to separate those things so they can up-level the agents over time, swap them out, different technology, it doesn't matter, right? But that the UI will remain the same. And we are designing that orchestration layer. We are doing the change management for one. We're working with the change management lead for the other. In both cases, we're working with client marketing leadership to say, what are your goals? Either because they're the executive team's goals for the marketing department or the go to market team in one case,
Mhm.
or they're coming in from the PE private equity firm to say, by the end of this year, you really need to be at this level and go get there. And we don't care how, but if you're not there, it's not good.
Makes it kind of nerve-wracking, right? I mean, you really have to up-level yourself, and there's a lot of pressure to do that.
And these companies are investing in change. And we have lots of companies that we work with that are not investing in AI change and still asking us for really basic things. And it's a little scary to see their path because they're getting further and further behind each day and not advancing it. How will those teams and marketing technology infrastructures look over time? They'll look really old really fast.
There's so much difference now in terms of how people research and find the products that they love. In the past, brand was a huge kind of influencer in terms of how people shop. Do you see brand still being an influencer in AI, in the AI world, for example?
So we don't think about brand as much. We try to think about the questions the buyer would ask. People are buying things and they might have a preconceived notion of the company that's good at something, right? From working with them in the past. but chances are they're going to go to a large language model of choice, whether that be Gemini or Claude or OpenAI, ChatGPT. They're going to ask, what are the best tools in this space? And if companies aren't thinking about those questions and how they show up in the answers, then brand doesn't really matter. So,
Yeah.
like, you can put all that under the heading of brand, of like, how do we present ourselves? But really, it's a lot more tactical than that to think, how do we become the answers to questions our buyers are asking? And what do we do specifically to meet that goal? So as marketers, we spent 20 years defining ourselves in terms of how Google would search for us. Well, that all changed in 2023, late 22, early 23. That all changed, and we all operate differently each day in our desktop. And my chat right now, I've got half a dozen AI windows open for different projects that I'm doing. And I'm not thinking about what brand, I'm just thinking about how do I get the thing done.
Mm. So let's talk about getting things done and what tools you've built your site, your company site very differently than many others today. So tell me why and you took that approach.
I was building lots of custom GPTs to get things done faster for myself each day. Proposal builders and company research tools and email follow up, where I would just drop the transcript in and say, write me a follow up email and lightly edit it and send it. And it was as good as I could write. So it was fine and saved me a ton of time. So I started asking myself, why doesn't the web work like this?
Mm.
And we started building toward an AI answer engine. We were building it in agentic technologies, and we were about 60% done when my lead developer and I were at a conference, and sitting next to another colleague, told him about what we were doing. And he said, why don't you just use this product for it? And that product is something that we ended up implementing on our site. It's my AI answer engine at marketgrowthconsulting.com. You can go there. It's just the homepage. And you can type in any question you want about market growth consulting. We log the questions and answers. And if I don't like the answer, I can record new content with my voice that I then turn into blog posts. And that will update the GPT each month with new answers. But that is the way we envision people using the web, and we went ahead and blew away our whole site and replaced it with just that GPT answer engine. We're starting to think about it a little differently. So our next project, we do these internal proofs of concept and then sell them to clients. So we've already launched one AI GPT as an answer engine for a $50 million consulting firm because clients couldn't find their content among the 400 pages they had on their website. Right? That was their challenge. For us, we think about it as, why wouldn't we just expose the entire project at the start and tell our prospects what they would get if they wanted to do that? So we're putting our staffing database as a GPT on our website, where you can go and ask, how would the market growth consulting team do this project? And it will design a project around the people in our database and tell you how that project would work. And then you'll reach out to us when you want it priced and you want to meet the people.
Wow. So essentially it rolls out the requirements, outcomes, success criteria before the project.
Deliverables. It's all the things that we're doing behind the scenes anyway. Like we're creating proposals from transcripts. So I have a half hour long conversation about what problems you have that we could solve with our consulting teams. We take that and put it into a Claude co-work skill, and it pumps out PowerPoint decks that are 70 or 80% of the way there. We still have some editing to do in them. But now we can take that and skinny it down and tell the prospect what they'd get if they worked with us.
Yeah, and the prospect knows what they're getting as well.
If they're interested, they reach out. If they're not, we're never going to have a conversation. We're never going to get that over the finish line.
So you actually helps you focus as a team and scale better to projects that actually have.
Qualify out opportunities that are never going to close.
Yeah.
The proposal is so much better than what I wrote from scratch.
Yeah.
So there are things that I have to go back to the transcript and say, was that really mentioned? Because I don't remember it. And to have every detail that a client asks for included in the proposal and not miss anything because I forgot to take a note on it is a huge difference. And it's much closer to the client's expectations in the way we're presenting it than it would have been if I took my notes, wrote a proposal, and presented it I was missing stuff. That's the honest answer.
That makes a lot of sense. And you can scale so much quicker. You can take in more proposals, and essentially you're increasing your batting rate. You've kind of been on this journey for a while, and you even help companies, it sounds like, evaluate AI talent.
Yep.
A lot of the people that listen to this podcast are trying to learn about AI and get better at it. What are some tips that you could give them? Where did they get started?
I am most interested in people when they tell me what they're building. So that I was at a networking event with CMOs last week. I was at a different networking event with marketing technology people across levels, some CMOs, but lots of individual contributor manager and director level. And the most interesting conversations were telling me what they were building. So I don't necessarily care about the tool, whether it's Python or Claude or Lovable,
Yeah.
but the people who have a problem and are going and building stuff for themselves, those are the most interesting people moving forward. So I don't spend a lot of time talking to people who are reluctant to try AI at this point. They're probably not ever going to be my clients. So the people who are trying new things and want to roll out that thing they built to the entire organization and figure out how to get it through IT and IT security and their legal team and their AI governance council, that's what we do. So we help them get from an idea or a working model to a production outcome across the whole department.
Mm.
So we used to talk about proofs of concept and production. Now we talk about personal and corporate value. So the proof of concept is personal value. Hey, look what I did. I got some value out of it. But then getting that to corporate value across your marketing peers takes change management, takes formalizing in an environment like Microsoft or AWS or something else. And that's what we do for clients.
I work in sales and solutions engineering, and we are trying to sell an API security product. And so we need signals around API security. Which APIs do you have? Are you exposing your APIs to AI like MCP servers and things like that? And so really not just having sales presentations that are, here's our product and this is why API security is good for you, but really kind of adding that special touch with the data that we pull from existing information just makes it so much valuable. And to your point with Cloud Code, you can automate all of it. So you put in your account ID and you pull stuff from Salesforce, from security analytics, and it pulls it all together for you. And it's just incredible. So the things you can do now that would take you days to scale probably can take minutes.
Yeah,
So
and I took a class this month in Claude Code and Python, using a Python repository that you were structuring a real application with that used Claude Code and its ability to go out and source information with what we used to call web scraping, but now we call sourcing information nicely. But it is looking at those intent signals across the web, starting with the companies that I focus on, my clients and prospects, but then extending once that's built correctly, we've extended that to build to source lookalikes that have the indicators that I use to say it's a good prospect. Usually our best clients start with a new marketing or rev ops leader or demand leader, and they are at a certain size for our ICP in a certain industry for our ICP. We talk to certain people within, and we are now building that ICP and persona into a Python Claude Code app that is going and sourcing more companies for us to talk.
that makes sense.
And that
Yeah.
was the training class. That's not something I'm investing in. That's me learning.
Well, I think that's honestly the future. When I look at what we need to do, a lot of it is around custom solutions. And I know you feel passionate about this because what people are no longer is interested in buying big enterprise software that they might use 10% off for what they need or have to adjust their processes. They want to build something that, replicates or helps them deal with their processes that they already have in place.
We do Martech audits for clients. Our base is about Series B, where they're big enough to appreciate the work that we do, and we can help them grow to the next stage or go some other exit. We had a client go public 2 weeks ago.
Mm.
So we want to be there to help them grow to the next level. Right. That's what we do. And when we do Martech audits, we find so many tools that people are getting no value from They have them because someone in the organization says, I need that, but they're
Yeah,
not measuring results. They're buying duplicative tools for one extra feature, and the whole Martech stack investment is broken, and they've never bothered integrating because they have too many tools. So they're not getting the core value from things. They're buying a different tool that's almost entirely duplicative for one feature. We see this over and over again. This isn't anything unique. So I was sharing with you earlier that an AI CMO colleague of mine who teaches a Claude coded class herself, she had a quote recently that I love, and it was, "What tool do I need that doesn't exist, and how do I build it?" And I thought that was brilliant because in this place where we can build for what we need with Claude Code and others, why would I go and do a $100,000 procurement project? Why would I go through procurement to buy something for $100,000 that will then take my team months or years to integrate? And instead, I could be building within my environment, within the tools that are approved by my IT security teams, et cetera. And I could build something that does the thing that I need on my desktop now.
right? And that makes a lot of sense. I think the part that we haven't really figured out is the tools are there, right, to build what we want. It's more of the production go live, AI governance around the way that we manage it, secure it, because there are a lot more security attacks, unfortunately, as well. The way we protect it from bots influencing it, which we know that there's more bot traffic now on the internet than human traffic. So there's a lot more that goes into putting something into production than building a tool for yourself. I think that,
And your IT security team needs to have policies. You need to understand policies. Your IT team needs to have them. So we had one client that hadn't yet written their AI use policy. So we put ours in our standard MSA, Master Services Agreement, and they said they crossed the whole thing off. And he said, well, we always say to clients, great, just give us yours and we'll replace it in our contract. Like, we become part of your team. We'll replace ours with yours and we will follow those rules when we're in your house. And they hadn't written it yet. And that was mind boggling at $100 million company that didn't have an AI usage policy. So our contract has a placeholder in it saying to be filled in later with an amendment clarifying the AI rules because they don't exist and they won't sign ours, which are really generic.
yeah. Well, the other thing is token usage. I'm surprised. Like it's been kind of a buffet in terms of token usage in companies. And now the CTO of the company or the CIO gets the bill and it's a lot more than they plan to spend. And so we're talking a lot about contextual, caching. Essentially, if the same question gets asked more than once, you reuse your tokens and the answers. You
Or
don't.
or that you build on a really cheap model.
Yeah.
So, I use Anthropic Haiku, which is a cheap model that is 1/10 or less of the price of Fable, the standard model. So I use Haiku as my starting point and then only go to Fable when I'm ready to do real work. That's fine for like writing
Right.
and some light thinking. When I'm doing strategic thinking or I'm doing final deliverables, I go into Fable and it costs more. But I don't hear anyone talking about choosing models differently. And the companies right now are just rewarding people for using a lot of tokens because it shows they're using it.
Right.
But it doesn't mean they're using it smartly.
No. Usually they're just experimenting like everybody else. But it's becoming more of a concern across enterprises because total cost of ownership in AI is one of the top topics that we talk to customers.
I think this is going to become a differentiator in how companies choose Anthropic versus Google versus OpenAI, that the management tools for seeing that people are using lightweight versus the production level models, that when people are using both, they will be rewarded for it. And when people are only using the most expensive models and just cranking through tokens,
Yeah.
that they will not be rewarded for that. They will be asked to reconsider how they use the AI.
And then you get in the whole agent orchestration and which agent uses which model. It's a lot more thinking that we're not used to, right? It's just like anything else in software. What do you see coming? I always like to ask the future question. The industry is changing so quickly. What do you kind of see down the road?
To predict it, we think out a quarter or two for what can we do now to build something that our clients will need next.
Yeah.
The latest proof of concepts that we're doing are automating with AI the GPT questions and answers and HubSpot person and ABM company data
Hmm.
into demand campaigns and doing all the writing
Yeah.
systematically. Right now, we're reviewing every one of them because we don't trust it yet. But eventually we will, and it will systematically pump out demand based on the questions people ask on our site, who that person is, what company they work at, and it will personalize emails to them based on the specifics of them, not based on their industry and country. Based on your question on our site, we'll have a personalized response and focus on not making it creepy, but to say things like companies like yours are investing in rather than you asked about, and that kind of,
Yeah, I mean, you can go to
yeah,
their LinkedIn. This is what I do. I don't know if it's creepy. I go to the LinkedIn profile because it's publicly available information. And then I open my Ask Gemini window and I say, evaluate the LinkedIn profile. What are some of the latest postings they've done? Look at their competition. How does it compare? And so coming in, I already know, like, do they like our competition more? What are the top 3 posts that they talked about? What are they really interested in? And so when you go into discussion, you're not flying blind. You're like,
no,
okay, Mark
no,
really likes to talk about AI. Let's really focus on that with Mark. And he loves Cloudflare. He's not a big fan of Akamai. So maybe we need to focus on that. So, it's just very interesting how you can use that knowledge.
yeah, it's fascinating. And the possibilities are endless. And what comes next isn't worth trying to predict, but
Mhm.
doing your best to keep up with it and keep learning and keep innovating is the most important thing you can do. I've listened to Paul Reitzer for 3 years now. I met him in Boston at an event back in like 2023, and I've listened to his podcast since. And he has a quote that is, AI won't replace marketers. Marketers who use AI will replace marketers who don't. And I've consistently used that quote in slides for years, and it remains true. And we see both in every client people that are skeptical and think it's not as good as they need, and people who are making it as good as they need and getting huge value from it.
Mm. Well, let's keep using it. And thank you for all you do to give the marketers the tools they need to be better with AI. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Vicki. This is great.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks so much.